Imagine stepping off a plane, camera in hand, and you're like fully expecting to farm millions of views just by harassing locals, right? And then suddenly you wake up in a concrete cell doing hard manual labor.
Oh, man. That is a massive reality check.
Seriously. Welcome back, Sip and Talkers. I'm Joe, your favorite over-caffeinated conversationalist.
And good morning, afternoon, or evening to all of you tuning in. I'm Sunny.
So do you remember a few months back when we were talking about that really infamous streamer?
Oh, yeah.
The guy who was literally screaming deeply offensive historical references on the Tokyo subway. And then he basically moved his whole operation over to harassing people on the streets of Seoul.
Yeah, Johnny Somali, Ramsey Khaled Ismail. We actually questioned back then when this highly specific brand of viral chaos would finally hit a brick wall.
Exactly. When does the traffic terrorist finally meet his match?
Well, today we actually have the answer. South Korea just handed down what is honestly a landmark sentence to him. And, I mean, this isn't just about one guy making really terrible life choices.
No, not at all. We're looking at a mirror here. It's reflecting the absolute ultimate boundary of our digital behavior when we, step foot inside sovereign nations.
Right. It's that exact moment where the endless pursuit of clicks violently collides with the actual rule of law.
So grab your coffee, folks, because in today's Sip and Talk, we are moving from that whole abstract premise of viral chaos directly into the hard, undeniable legal consequences. The stuff that finally brought this to a grinding halt.
And South Korea really did bring the hammer down. I mean, the sentence was 6 months and 20 days in prison. But the most crucial detail here is the specific classification. It's prison with labor.
With labor. That's a huge distinction, right?
It's huge. In their penal system, that means mandatory work assignments. He's not just, sitting in a cell reading books and passing the time.
An offline vacation for him.
Exactly. It's a highly regimented schedule. It's designed for rehabilitation through actual physical effort, which is a heavy psychological toll for a foreign visitor.
I mean, going from holding a selfie stick and just wandering around looking for trouble to waking up in a concrete facility doing manual work. Wild. And the court went way beyond just the prison sentence, too.
Oh, yeah, they didn't stop there.
They put this really strict digital leash on him. They handed down a 5-year offender status.
Right, and that designation is no joke. It registers him in a law enforcement database, which heavily restricts his movements. It actually legally bars him from approaching certain facilities, specifically to keep him away from women and children for half a decade.
5 years. And then there's the hardware aspect, which I found fascinating. The permanent confiscation of his smartphone.
The holy grail for a streamer.
Right. I mean, taking his phone, it's not just taking a camera. It's like stripping a knight of his sword.
Yeah.
You are seizing his point-of-sale system.
Yeah, you're literally shutting down the cash register of his whole traffic arbitrage business.
Exactly. You physically remove the one piece of equipment that enables the livelihood. And to make sure none of this was delayed by, appeals or him trying to flee, the judge ordered his immediate detention right there in the courtroom.
Which was largely his own fault. During his final statement, he actually stood up and spun this whole narrative about being an active student at Arizona State University.
Oh, the ASU lie.
Yeah. He claimed that being detained would, permanently derail his academic future.
But the court actually verified it, right?
They did. They checked it,
Yep.
and the whole thing fell apart completely. He wasn't an active student at all.
So he lied right to the judge's face.
Basically. And that fabrication proved to the judge that he wasn't just a nuisance. He was an active flight risk trying to manipulate the court.
Boom. Immediate lockup. But I do want to push back on the math of the sentence for a second here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because the prosecutors originally asked for 3 years, and he got 6 months and 20 days. If I'm another streamer watching this unfold, I might look at those numbers and think, well, 6 months. That's essentially a technical light sentence.
I can see how it looks that way on paper, but the judge actually applied a very specific legal logic to get to that exact number. We have to break down the anatomy of the 8 charges against him.
Right, there were 8 total.
Yeah. So 4 of those were for business obstruction. That's the whole thing of literally walking into convenience stores or restaurants and causing so much intense chaos that the owners couldn't physically operate their businesses.
Yeah, playing loud music, screaming, just ruining the vibe.
Exactly. Then 2 were for minor public order offenses. But the judge also factored in the strict travel ban he had already been under. He'd been trapped in South Korea for months awaiting trial, so the judge counted that period as a sort of buffer time deduction.
Ah, I see. time served, essentially.
Right. But the critical two charges, the ones that really anchored the severity of the sentence, were for deepfake distribution.
And we really need to clarify this for the Sip&Talkers, because when the court says deepfake distribution, they aren't talking about like silly voice filters or harmless face swaps on TikTok.
No, absolutely not. They are talking about the algorithmic mapping of innocent citizens' faces onto illicit or deeply humiliating material.
Which is incredibly damaging.
It is. And when he was on the stand, he tried to defend those actions using that classic content creator language. He claimed it was all just satire, just pranks.
It's just a prank, bro, the oldest excuse on the internet.
Literally. But the judge firmly rejected that defense. The ruling established a super clear precedent. In the AI era, spreading deepfakes is absolutely not free speech. It is the direct, intentional destruction of personality rights.
Personality rights. That is such a fascinating legal concept. It's basically the fundamental right to your own image, your likeness, and your own dignity, right?
Exactly. The court emphasized that generating those fabricated images causes extreme, devastating humiliation to victims, regardless of their age or gender. It's digital violence, plain and simple.
Which really brings us to the core of the issue here, which is the business model itself. I mean, think about your own social media feed this morning. You probably didn't stop scrolling for a video of someone quietly eating a sandwich.
Definitely not.
You stopped for the person screaming in a public space. We are the demand side of this economy. The algorithms powering these platforms are explicitly designed to reward radical, conflict-driven content.
Because outrage generates the highest engagement, and engagement translates directly to advertising dollars.
Right. So these streamers, they just exploit their status as foreign tourists to supply that outrage. They treat international laws as a literal playground.
Because they assume the absolute worst-case scenario is just administrative deportation. The business model is so simple, really. Go to a foreign country, break all the social norms, farm millions of views, cash the massive check from the platform, and if the cops show up, accept a free flight home.
But wait, if the platform's algorithm literally pays out cash for bad behavior, aren't these streamers essentially just rational actors?
Oh, interesting point.
Right. Like, they are operating in a completely broken system, doing exactly what the software tells them will make them wealthy. So why is the host country, South Korea, in this case, bearing the massive financial and social costs of policing Silicon Valley's algorithms?
And that is exactly why South Korea recognized they had to escalate their response. They realized that mere administrative deportation was just being factored into the streamer's business model as overhead.
It was just a travel expense.
Exactly, a cost of doing business. So by escalating to physical punishment prison with actual labor, they completely changed the math. They are sending this huge global signal to influencers everywhere. Your content creation boundaries violently stop where another country's legal dignity begins.
Man, that is powerful. And we're seeing this demand for order globally now. The patience for international visitors acting like they have diplomatic immunity just because they're holding an iPhone, it's wearing incredibly thin.
Oh, absolutely. You even hear this echoing across the political spectrum. Like, you see sentiments from figures like Trump regarding the strict necessity for international visitors to just adhere to baseline codes of conduct.
Yeah, the whole attitude is shifting.
It's shifting from unconditional hospitality to demanding fundamental respect for the host nation's rule of law.
But South Korea's hammer approach, it only works because they caught him before he fled the country. What happens when a country's legal system assumes good faith and moves way too slowly to catch a digital nomad?
Right, the Japan problem.
Exactly. That is the exact vulnerability we are seeing exploited in Japan right now.
Japan's legal framework is a perfect case study for this. After the Second World War, their constitution and legal system were intentionally redesigned to make government interventions slow and highly protective of individual liberties.
So it requires a huge burden of proof and meticulous due process.
Yes. It's a feature, not a bug. It's designed to protect normal citizens.
I love that analogy. If you treat a nation's legal system like a software platform, Japan's system is optimized for authenticated good faith users.
Exactly.
So these rogue streamers, they're essentially hackers. They're exploiting zero-day vulnerabilities in the law. They weaponize the host country's own tolerance, their politeness, and those slow legal processes against them just to farm engagement.
Because the system assumes a baseline of social shame and compliance, right?
Yeah.
It totally struggles to process bad actors who simply have no shame. I mean, when Somali was in Japan prior to his arrival in South Korea, he was essentially just fined and deported.
The process was slow enough that he could just pack up and move his operation to the next country.
Yeah. And recently, Japan has seen a massive influx of Chinese streamers engaging in what we can basically call performative patriotism.
Oh, this is the wildest trend.
It really is. They've been harassing the famous Nara deer, physically kicking them, and then looking directly into the camera, claiming they are doing it to, quote, teach Japan a lesson due to historical grievances.
They are wrapping basic vandalism in the flag of historical justice just to get algorithmic traction. It's insane. We've even seen cases of them aggressively harassing local restaurant owners and stealing high-value agricultural products.
Like the Shine Muscat grapes.
Yes, the Shine Muscat grapes, all while broadcasting the theft live to their audience. The Japanese public is sitting there watching their high-trust society being actively dismantled for live stream views.
And this intense frustration has led to serious calls within Japan to build what they're terming national resilience. Lawmakers are finally realizing they need to pass legislation specifically targeted against malicious nuisance tourism.
Because the traditional laws are just too slow and too polite to handle the speed of internet clout chasing.
Exactly.
Now, I always assumed Taiwan and Japan shared similar legal DNA when it came to individual protections. But Taiwan's approach to patching this legal zero-day is entirely different. They basically use administrative speed as their primary weapon.
Taiwan's strategy is so fascinating. They handle these provocateurs by bypassing the slow criminal courts entirely for these specific offenses.
Just skip the trial.
Right. Take the example of individuals like Wuhan Chris. He visits major tourist hubs like Ximending or the plaza right in front of Taipei 101 and makes these aggressive political claims.
Intentionally trying to provoke the locals into a confrontation on camera, right? To create that sweet algorithmic conflict.
Yes, exactly. But instead of arresting them and entering some month-long trial, Taiwanese authorities utilize rapid administrative measures. They instantly revoke the person's visa and enforce a mandatory immediate deportation.
Which is brilliant. The entire strategy is designed to just deny the oxygen of attention. If a streamer wants to put on a performance, Taiwan simply turns off the lights and closes the theater.
Such a good way to put it. We are looking at three distinct philosophical approaches to the exact same modern problem here.
Yeah, let's recap those.
You've got Japan's slow due process procedure, which is highly protective of rights, but totally vulnerable to exploitation. Then you have Taiwan's rapid administrative cutoff, which removes the performer from the stage instantly.
And then you have South Korea's heavy physical punishment.
Right, which attacks the streamer's actual freedom and physical comfort as a hard deterrent.
And all of these legal frameworks, they're reacting to the profound psychological fallout these streamers leave behind in these communities. I was actually reading some fascinating research in the Social Psychology Quarterly while prepping for our Sip&Talk today.
Oh, about group labeling.
Yes, they detail the exact mechanism of group labeling. Basically, our brains are evolutionarily wired to notice the threat, right?
Yeah.
The loud noise, the obnoxious anomaly.
The outlier.
And the studies show that highly visible, highly publicized bad behavior by just a tiny handful of individuals very quickly solidifies into rigid, negative stereotypes for an entire demographic.
That makes so much sense. When a streamer goes viral for harassing locals or, kicking a deer, the local population unconsciously maps that specific behavior onto everyone else who looks like that streamer or carries that same passport.
Which creates this massive social debt. It damages the reputation of millions of innocent people. And this dynamic ties directly into the concept of the social contract, which has been discussed extensively in journals like the Harvard Law Review.
Yeah, the foundational idea there is that respecting local laws and cultural norms isn't just some polite suggestion. It is the absolute baseline requirement for participating in global society.
Right. Crossing a border means you are legally opting into a new social contract.
Yeah.
I've actually experienced this anxiety firsthand.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
Well, when you see a viral video of a tourist from your own country acting completely unhinged in a restaurant abroad.
Oh, God. Yes. It's the worst.
And then, a month later, you're traveling. You walk up to a hotel desk halfway across the world and you hand over that exact same passport. Suddenly, you feel incredibly self-conscious.
You're sweating a little bit.
Totally. You find yourself over-tipping, being overly polite, almost apologizing for your nationality, just to prove to the person behind the desk that you aren't the guy from the viral video.
You are personally paying off the reputational debt that the streamer racked up for views. That is so real. But, true change doesn't happen just through heavier prison sentences or faster deportations.
It doesn't.
No, it happens through internal community policing. A culture only shifts when a community firmly decides to police its own.
When viewers actually stop rewarding the behavior with clicks.
Exactly. When society establishes a firm cultural consensus that acting like a digital hooligan abroad isn't patriotic and it isn't funny, it's just a profound embarrassment.
Just deeply cringe.
Yeah. True patriotism is about increasing your country's soft power, making people globally respect and admire your culture. It is not about burning through your country's international credit card just to boost your personal social media metrics.
Wow. Burning your country's credit for your own metrics. That is a perfect way to summarize it. It's basically selfishness masquerading as bold content creation, which honestly brings us to a really fascinating, somewhat philosophical place to wrap up today's discussion.
Let's hear it.
The law, no matter how strictly it is enforced or how fast it moves, is society's absolute last line of defense.
Because true, high-level freedom actually requires self-discipline.
Right.
If you cannot govern your own behavior, a governing body will eventually step in and do it for you. And often they'll do it with a concrete cell and manual labor.
As technology makes it just totally frictionless to broadcast our worst impulses globally, we really have to ask ourselves, will the era of live streaming eventually force every single country to build digital borders that are as strict and as heavily policed as their physical ones?
That's a terrifying thought.
Right. Are we moving toward a world where your digital footprint and your past online behavior are checked just as rigorously as your physical luggage accustoms?
Honestly, given the trajectory of the cases we've examined today, from Tokyo to Seoul to Taipei, that reality might be much closer than we think.
It really might. Well, before we sign off, we do want to be incredibly clear. Today's Sip and Talk shared objective facts, legal mechanisms, and specific case studies to encourage critical and independent thinking.
Yes. In an internet filled with noise, we believe in looking at the mechanics of how things actually work.
We do not discriminate against or criticize any specific country, group, or people. We are just exploring the fascinating and sometimes really messy intersection of human behavior, technology, and the law.
Because knowledge is most valuable when it helps us understand the bigger picture and the underlying systems without prejudice.
Beautifully said. If you enjoy taking these kinds of deep dives with us and unpacking the why behind the headlines, we enthusiastically invite you to subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps the show.
It sure does.
Also, a massive shout out to our good friend Mickey. You have got to check out his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life. He is out there doing travel the right way.
He really is. Engaging respectfully with cultures, showcasing beautiful places, and bringing us his latest highly entertaining travel vlogs.
Seriously, go give Mickey to Life a subscribe right now.
He shows the absolute best side of being a global citizen.
He does. So Sip and Talkers, next time you see a viral video of someone causing chaos for clicks, remember, eventually the internet's lack of gravity hits the brick wall of reality. Stay